Hello and welcome to the second episode of season 7 of Casting Reflections on Black Mirror.
Well done.
I've just about got that right, haven't I?
You don't want to retake it? You okay?
I think we're good.
I think you
we're
cracked
good.
it. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's only season 2 of Casting Reflections, but let's say each season of the actual show, was it? Yeah, yeah, that's fine. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right after butchering that intro again. I was just saying actually before, literally just as we were starting to record, I wish I'd seen this episode again because I've just watched it the once. And just to shout out now, obviously, spoilers for season 7, episode 2, Bete Noire of Black Mirror. I found this an odd episode overall for a number of reasons. What's your just initial views of this?
My initial views is, and we could explore more into it, but I really, really liked it up until it ended. Like, I thought the concept of it was great. And the whole gaslighting theme that was kind of throughout it. And I thought that was really clever. I just hated the way it ended.
I agree with you. But I also find it's a difficult one when I was thinking about how we're going to talk about this, because it feels like a difficult one to try to apply to real life. But we'll come on to that. Season 7, episode 2, Bete Noire, directed by Toby Haynes. Now, he has directed a few shows that we've also discussed in the past ourselves. He directed an episode of Sherlock. He did the Reichenbach Falls.
Yeah. Okay.
He also directed the original USS Callister. He's therefore directed the second episode, which I've not seen. He directed Demons 79, and he's also directed a few episodes of Doctor Who. Now, the two main actresses we're going to talk about, they haven't got too much in the way of a filmography, and I thought our link into DC has, our link into Marvel has ended. But I found a really tenuous link. The director has directed some episodes of Andor for Disney Plus. Disney owns Marvel, so that's my link.
I'm not. Is it a link? It feels a bit of a stretch.
Moving on. Right, so it stars Sienna Kelly as Maria, Rosie McEwen as Verity. Now, yeah, this debuted along with all the other episodes on the 10th of April of this year. We get straight into it. It starts off with Monday, which is, I don't know, I always like it when you have these big, bold things come up on the screen that tell you what time period it is. But this is Monday. And we see Maria and her boyfriend at home. She's tasting some chocolates for work. We find out that she works at a chocolate company. She comes up with new flavors and she's trying a new one she's just created. It cuts to her at work and there's a testing group trying it. And the final person who comes in is Verity, who you can tell Maria recognizes straight away. They're testing the chocolate and a lot of the group don't like it, but Verity tries it and she likes it. And she asks everyone to try it again. And on the second taste, suddenly the group starts to like it. Verity and Maria meet in the restrooms where it's revealed it's been 10 years since they last met, which was at school. And Verity says she's going to apply for an assistant role in Maria's team, and Maria looks uncomfortable and says there is no role. You see there's tension between them, and you get the impression maybe there's been some bullying, because often that's the only reason why someone's going to be really uncomfortable. Maria goes back to her computer, looks on the company website and sees there is a role going. We then find out in a conversation between Maria and her boyfriend that Verity was seen as a brainy computer freak, and there was a rumor that she performed a sex act on a teacher, that she was an easy target, and one girl in particular was quite evil towards Verity. Maria is suspicious as to why Verity, who was a brainy student, has been working as a travel agent, now wants to be in food R&D. So that's Monday. Anything in that initial bit for you? I think I missed an important part there, actually, didn't I, about the cap?
Yeah. I was going to say that when she was talking to the research group, the group only liked the chocolate because she suggested they like the chocolate. And she got them to try it again. And she was like, oh no, it's so much better on the second time round. Trust me. And at that point, then they all loved it.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something here and I don't want you to jump in just yet, but the important thing I missed is you see that her boyfriend works at a chicken shop and he puts a hat on the counter. And it was, for me, probably gives a bit away, it was a place called Barney's. So Tuesday comes up, Verity's being interviewed, and to Maria's concern, she gets a job, and Maria asks her boss to dig around a bit more into Verity because, again, she's saying why someone who's so clever at school, worked as a travel agent, now wants to be in her business. Cuts to Wednesday, and Maria and her boss meet, and he says Verity checks all came back clean. He also lets her know that he has assigned Verity to shadow Maria. Maria starts by making Verity list all the ingredients for a new mallow treat that the company owner, Mr. Ditter, is interested in and is visiting them specifically to try. Maria starts writing off the list of ingredients and she is correcting on a spelling by the computer. I think it was for a seaweed. I didn't write it down because it was a weird word. And her colleagues are then talking about a chicken shop called called Bernie's. But Maria corrects them and says, no, it's Barney's. And then there's an argument, because as I said, I also saw the cap at the start of the episode, which confirmed it was Barney's. So they argue it, and she Googles it, and the results do show that it's Bernie's, not Barney's. So she goes home, looks at the cap, and sees that it changed from a Barney's cap to a Bernie's, and I think it changed from red to purple. Anyway, she's talking to her boyfriend about this. He starts relating it to the Mandela effect. They have an argument. She storms out and looks at school photos where one of them shows Verity in the background looking on. She then decides to message Natalie Kane, who was the girl that was nasty to Verity and had started the rumours, to let her know about Verity coming back. But on the text message, we see that they haven't spoken for 4 years. Cut to Thursday. Boss is visiting the office. He tries the new chocolate, loves it, and starts to ask what the texture is. Maria says that it's held together with a derivative from the seaweed that she'd listed in the ingredients. Oh, and I forgot to say that, Verity was then going to take the ingredients and bring it to the chef to make. When she says that it's a plant-based derivative, the head chef looks very confused but doesn't say anything.
Yeah, she described the product as having a plant-based derivative in. The cook looked horrified at that point, and then it was realised that it did have beef-based gelatine in it.
They go into the boss's office and they're arguing. Verity says that all Maria said was that it should be non-pork gelatin, and Maria is adamant that she wrote carrageenan. They're arguing over this. He asked to see the email that Maria sent, but again, it says non-pork gelatin, whereas we saw earlier Maria write the word carrageenan. She's forced to apologise, and later at home, she says to her boyfriend that Verity must have done something as she was always a computer genius. Natalie messages her back, the friend from school, but it's actually a message from her husband who informs her that Natalie had died a few days ago. Maria calls her back. Now, whilst this isn't a funny bit in terms of, because she's just found out someone has died, the boyfriend was arguing for her not to call him because he's going to be grieving. And you can see the boyfriend cringing in the background, can't you, when she calls him up to ask about him. So we see him cringing in the background, and we find out the friend took her own life after becoming increasingly paranoid. Skip to Friday. Maria goes to work and only Verity is there. And she asks if she was sitting out the team meeting that was going on. They have an open conversation about their childhood. And Verity then drinks all of the colleagues' milk, chucking it on the floor, and then blames Maria. Now, in a lead up to this, on previous days, there was a colleague in the office was constantly complaining that her milk was being drunk or was being used up. Wasn't there?
Almond milk, yeah.
Yeah, almond milk, that's right. And so Verity drinks this milk, chucks it on the floor, blames Maria. When the rest of the team come in, Maria starts saying that Verity's drunk it, Verity blames her. So they go to check the CCTV footage, and it shows Maria getting quite aggressive, grabbing the milk and drinking it. She says it couldn't be her as she has a nut allergy. When she says nut allergy, the boss and the security guard don't recognize these words. So when she Googles nut allergy, it comes up and it says, "Did you mean not allergy?" So now the phrase nut allergy means nothing, right? At that point, she notices a pendant on Verity that Verity is fondling, and she believes that it's that's changing the facts. She lunges to stop it, to take it, but it's stopped and fired. Now, this is where we get to the bit you were saying. That night, Maria breaks into...
Just before that, just to kind of emphasize some of those points. So when every time that reality's changed, well, what she sees as reality is being changed. Verity makes a statement just before, which sound when I watched it first time round, I don't know if you felt the same, but it felt odd what she was saying when she was saying it. But when you watch it second time round, it kind of makes sense. So when it comes to the nut allergy piece, the second before that, she goes, "There's no such thing as a nut allergy."
Yeah.
And obviously, you kind of like your ears pick up a point because that's nonsense. And then just before the CCTV footage was shown, she was like, "It was her. It wasn't me." And and again, it was like a useless kind of. You didn't need to say that out loud. First time round, it made me feel a bit weird when she said it because it was out of place. But then obviously, as the story goes on, you understand why she's saying it.
Yeah, and I wish I'd seen it a second time. So I think a lot of it would make sense. And I guess the one thing I haven't stressed is that Maria, as the days have gone on, has become increasingly more, I guess we would say the word paranoid, because as we said, she was convinced her boyfriend's chicken shop was called Barney's and then it was Bernie's. The incident where she knows she emailed a specific ingredient to Verity, and when they've looked at the email, that word wasn't there. I mean, the big one is obviously the changing of the CCTV from Verity, because they were getting on. I think they'd reconciled from Verity drinking the milk and throwing it on the floor to Maria drinking the milk and throwing it on the floor. So all this is increasingly making Maria think she's going crazy, doesn't she? So that night, she breaks into Verity's home and she discovers a massive server room and a box of pendants that are identical to the one Verity was wearing. When Verity discovers Maria hiding under the bed, because obviously Maria sees that Verity's still there, she hides under the bed. Verity explains that after finishing school, she became an expert programmer. She created a quantum computer in her home that can shift her to any timeline she desires through real-time data she gathered using the pendant as the remote. Essentially, meaning she could do whatever she wants. She could change anything to her will. She's been changing the timelines around Maria in an attempt to drive her to suicide. Verity reveals she did the same thing to Natalie as revenge for the rumor that Maria started. Maria tries to reason with her, but Verity reveals she has tried every path in life, with none being as satisfying as revenge. Maria attempts to attack Verity, but Verity alters reality to have armed police arrive, placing a knife in Maria's hand. While restrained, Maria grabs an officer's gun and shoots Verity in the face. She quickly grabs a pendant, uses Verity's fingerprint to shift to a timeline where it works for her, and after making the police officers believe that Verity was the attacker, she shifts reality several times to her own benefit. Now, one thing that was said earlier on when she finds out that Verity's changing timeline, doesn't Verity say at one point, "I even made myself Empress of the Universe," didn't she? And it wasn't as fun as revenge. So the very final scene is is Maria making herself the Empress of the Universe. So that's a really, really quick synopsis, but I think this episode probably has got quite a quick summary. So ultimately, woman makes another woman go crazy by changing timelines around her to make her to doubt everything she currently believes, right?
Yeah, that's essentially it. So what were your kind of initial thoughts? So when you finished the episode, how did you feel?
Exactly like you. I love the idea of it. I love the premise. I just thought the ending. I don't know what I thought about the ending. I know what it was trying to do, but
Do you think? So we've discussed many Black Mirror episodes in the past where we've said, I think it would have been better if they ended it like this. On this one, I was disappointed with the ending and I couldn't think how they could end it so it was satisfactory. Do you think there's an alternative way you could? Because in my mind, it had such a good first 95%. I'm like, this episode is great, and then she goes from being bullied and paranoid to Empress of the Universe in the space of about 40 seconds. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and when that episode finished, I was like, oh, for goodness sake, like, that was ridiculous.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because one thing I didn't like is because we do find out that Maria and that the other friend were bullies. I mean, I think we find out it was actually Maria. Maria blamed the other woman, that Natalie, as the person who started the rumor about the sex act on the teacher. But I think we find out it was Maria, don't we? So the bully won at the end of it. That's one thing I don't like. But yeah, it was just that whole. If they'd have maybe showed it over do it over a few minutes and showing her getting increasingly crazy with power, and that's then when she made herself the Empress of the Universe. But she just goes from having a struggle finding out about this quantum computer, which she doesn't even question, right? It's just, oh, you've created a quantum computer that can change timelines.
Yeah.
To then making herself that. I mean, maybe I wonder if a better ending and maybe more fitting with Black Mirror is that Verity then ultimately erases Maria from everyone's memories and she becomes Maria.
Yeah. I think what would have been quite good is if they'd given Verity a bit more of a backstory, so you felt sorry for her character to start with. And then you'd kind of get to the episode end, and I would almost have like you said, the bully won at the end of the day. You kind of find that out late on. But almost if you felt sorry for Verity and then she kind of won, not to the point where she committed suicide, but in a scenario where, Maria's left unhappy, I think that might have been a better ending.
Or that they kept changing timelines. They're having a battle with these pendants and they changed timelines so much that just the world rips apart or something.
I also think they could have not drawn out, that's probably the wrong word, but they could have really explored that, the little things making you go crazy. I don't think they did that long enough, because I think because when they did the CCTV, because all the other stuff on there, you would question yourself, wouldn't you? You would like, oh, maybe I didn't send that email with the evidence is here. Maybe I've completely remembered that wrong, or maybe I didn't write that ingredient down. Maybe I just remembered that wrong. All that stuff is kind of believable where you would doubt yourself. The second the CCTV got involved, at that point, it's like blatantly obvious. It's almost like they rushed the last few minutes, isn't it?
That's a really good point, because everything up till then, maybe apart from the nut allergy, I still find that funny where they said, do you mean not allergy? Yeah, maybe if they made it more of a small steps, maybe do it over a couple of weeks. And it's just these little things, because we've all done that. Like you said, you think someone has said something to you, and when you go back to them, they say, no, I didn't say that. Or you think you've read something, but you've misinterpreted it. So basically, you're advocating her drawing out the poor woman's torture a little bit more, aren't you?
Yeah, but with the caveat that we feel sorry for her more by seeing more of her backstory, because she just kind of almost introduces herself as a bully, and we don't understand why. I'd like to see the backstory. It's, like I said, really, really, really good idea.
The other thing I found weird about it, though, is, and I know you shouldn't think about things like this in a show like Black Mirror, but this woman, okay, she was a computer nerd, but she's created a quantum computer that can shift timelines. It's not even said that she's worked for a company or something. It's just that,
or she's stolen it or been given it. It's it's that bit's a bit silly, isn't it?
I said to you not to jump in at the start, but the whole thing about the chicken shop, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so essentially Netflix, I don't think Black Mirror have done this before. Netflix have done this before, but they've released 2 alternate episodes, haven't they? Whereby in one episode it started off being Bernie's and turned out to be Barney's with the changed reality, and in another episode they did it the other way around, so it was Barney's and became Bernie's. Now, when we were texting about this, we saw different versions. However, when I rewatched it, I had the version that you just explained. Now I'm beginning to question myself whether I had the version the right way around in the first place.
But that's what I think this does good, and that's why we'll give this episode credit for doing. So yeah, there were 2 versions. I had the Barneys that turned into Bernie's, and then I messaged you. You said you had the Bernie's that turned into Barney's.
This time round when I'm watching it, I heard her say, it's definitely Barney's because it's like a barn where you keep animals.
Yeah.
And now I wish I'd known what she said in the other version because she would have said something. She would have said something different.
This is what I was going to say. So obviously, this whole episode is on playing on gaslighting and the Mandela effect, right? And imagine if you and we'd come on and we didn't know about that, and I'm like saying Barney's turning into Bernie's. You're probably sitting there. You would either one or two things. Either you didn't want to say anything because you think, did you get it wrong?
I would have corrected you.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, knowing you'd be like, Dad, are you feeling all right? You know, it was Bernie's into Barney's. Yeah, I just think that was a clever little thing. I think at the start, the problem is in this day and age with the internet, these things come out really quickly. But yeah, can you imagine if you, or even if you weren't doing this episode and you just decided to watch it again, would you be questioning yourself?
I don't think I would have picked up on it. I feel like we concentrate on these episodes because we're going to talk to them and we look out for these details. I'm not convinced if I was just a casual viewer, I would have noticed it. It's not the sort of detail you would talk about either, right? It's not like, you wouldn't go and analyze it to the detail that we've just done on this podcast. We wouldn't talk about that scene.
I wonder if you watched it quickly in succession, though. Like if you've had a few weeks between, like I might not watch it for another few months now, so I won't remember. But if you were to watch it, like sometimes I will watch these episodes twice back to back. One, so I can make some notes, and two, just to enjoy it.
Yeah, indeed. Now, if they'd done two versions where the two actresses were completely reversed,
yeah,
that would get us. That I think I'd notice that. Like
that'd be brilliant.
Imagine doing a second watch of that, and you're like, what? Like, you would be. I think you would question your sanity, wouldn't you? And then you would look it up on the internet, and you go, "Oh, that's quite clever."
That's actually class. That would be the far better option.
Yeah,
that'd be the far better option. The whole thing, this got me thinking. So you know the Mandela effect, where people remember something to be different to what it is, or they find something out and they're sure their memory tells them it was something different. Now, long-time listeners of this show knows that I did an episode on the Mandela effect, and the thing is, we've discussed like things are going streaming. There's more and more streaming. On the streaming, people are changing things, and they don't have to tell people. Like Stranger Things, in the last series that came out, directors changed some of the effects in some of the episodes, but didn't tell people what or where. They just did it. I think they weren't happy. So again, if you're watching that and then you rewatch it and you notice something's different, you're going to think that's a Mandela effect, right? And there was that show on Apple. I don't know if you watched it. Is it with that Rob McElhenney in it? So it's called Mythic Quest. The show got cancelled after the last season, so they weren't happy with the ending. So they redone the last episode and have uploaded it and took away the original ending.
Oh.
So again, are we in an age now where these things are happening and we are going to start questioning ourselves? But because streaming can change at any point, we're starting to doubt our minds.
Before I come on, I did try and think if there was a way that I could drop things on into this conversation to question your sanity and see if I could kind of catch you out on. I couldn't think of one in time to do it.
Oh, don't worry. I think my brain's so tired tonight. I think already some of the mistakes I've made during this has been fine. I mean, I like the episode in a whole because I said gaslighting, Mandela effect, streaming, fake news and Big Brother, that sort of thing has always been something that we as people have been fascinated with. And I think fake news in the last few years since COVID especially has become massive, right? But do you see what I'm saying? It's a hard episode, I think, to try to apply to real life because it would then mean we'd need to have one of these clickers. So if you had one of these pendants, I bet you'd have a field day, right?
Yeah, what would you do with it?
What wouldn't you do with it? I think.
I guess if the scope was everything, then
this is the thing. It's a proper cheat code, isn't it? Well, other than her untimely death, there was no ramifications for Verity constantly using it, was there?
Yeah, agreed.
No penalty, I guess is what I mean.
And do you think she aged? Like, do you think she was just living one life, or do you think she kept on going back to do it again? That bit wasn't clear, was it?
No, I got the impression it was just one life, but she was just able
And she didn't undo some of the stuff that she said. So she also like got her speaking Chinese, didn't she? And then she didn't undo the Chinese. She just suddenly started speaking English again.
Oh, and I guess the important thing is to say that I think what a second rewatch will do is, as you pointed out in the focus group where she got people to change their minds about the chocolate,
Yeah.
is you can see when she's touching that pendant is ultimately when she's activating the
Yeah,
thing.
and then you can see when she's influencing. So on the Barney's thing, she made a slide comment saying, "Actually, I think it was Barney's," and you don't notice that on the first watch. But the second watch, it's definitely worth a go to notice when she's influencing the room.
But I guess if you had that power, it's the small little things like you said. You could just change anything. You have a bad conversation at work, you just change it. You say, "No, that project I handed in was perfect." Yeah.
Do you not find, though, and we might be going off onto a bit of a tangent here with the whole gaslighting thing, people don't have pendants, but I feel like this happens a bit in today's world, in the because we both work in office environments. Do you not feel it
On a
happens
small scale,
sometimes
yeah.
on a small
Yeah.
scale kind of gaslighting? It's like, well, no, you said this, and I said this, and so said this, and there's always this influencing by stretching the truth a little bit, by exaggerating just that little bit to kind of change the tone or the message.
Yeah, especially if something isn't written down. Anyone could say, "Oh, I told you to do this," and especially if it's a position of power to somebody under their power, then that person is probably more likely to doubt themselves, right? The person who's being spoken to. So, yeah, I think people always have been, whether it's to cover up their own mistake, maybe, or just because they genuinely believe it. Yeah, you must have little instances of this happen all the time. But yeah, I think you'd have fun with it.
I
Think of
think
all
so.
the. I was going to say, think of all the football results we could change.
Football results, but also as well, because again we both work in IT and we both work in kind of support service operational areas. We could just wipe out any bad issue that we encountered,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Like,
not really an issue. It wasn't me. I just felt the ending was very rushed. Like I said, that Maria quickly got a plan together, and yeah, just that Empress of the Universe thing felt just so silly and forced. And I thought the other thing was when she shot that Verity, that was quite gruesome as well, wasn't it? It was
yes, it was, wasn't it? It was a bit of a shock.
came out of the blue, didn't it?
Yeah.
It was quite gory, quite graphic.
See, I don't think they didn't need to kill her off. I just think like seeing her suffer in a prison cell or something along those lines would have been okay as an ending. I just don't think we needed a death in there.
Yeah, they could have arrested her, put her in a prison, then you could find out that maybe she had, or put her in the back of a police van, and you find out she's got one of those pendants hidden in a shoe or something. Yeah,
Yeah, agreed. And like they made a point of saying like the pendants are like programmed by fingerprint or whatever it was,
yeah,
and within 5 seconds that was undone. So it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
why even bother putting the limitation on in the first place?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. And I also like the fact that in her bedroom she had a box with about 15 of them or something, wasn't it? It was like a whole
yeah,
jewelry box full of them. It's like, how many have you lost in the past?
yeah, yeah, exactly. What she could have done though is just wiped out the bullying thing from school. Like she didn't need to get she didn't need to get revenge. She could have just gone into a universe where that just didn't happen.
quite a short episode, but yeah.
Yeah, true, true.
Do you know what? Yeah, you see that again, Dan. You've come up with a really sensible suggestion.
I think too much about these things.
I mean, there was a few things I was going to point out. There was a few Easter eggs in there, so I don't think I picked up any of these. So did you pick up any that you want to shout out? Or?
I didn't pick up any Easter eggs. I thought there might have been some Easter eggs in the name of a company, the name of a brand, but I don't recall there being. But no,
No,
I
so the
didn't.
only thing I think with the brand was that it was referenced in the previous episode, Common People. And I haven't checked these, but I've got no reason to doubt it. But Barney's Chicken is where Kenny worked in season 3, episode Shut Up and Dance.
Oh, okay.
Verity's previous work experience on her LinkedIn profile includes Wayhaven Travel, and that's a hotel chain featured in Shut Up and Dance. Outside the Ditta testing lab is a Gemini Orbits poster, which is a callback to the doomed spacecraft in Beyond the Sea. The Ditta building is situated opposite a Tuckersoft billboard, and that's the maker of the game that was the source of Black Mirror Bandersnatch. When Maria's boyfriend plays with a VR, the creatures of the video game in Plaything, which is a later episode, can be heard. The organic milk is the same brand as a chocolate milk Robert Daly drinks in USS Callister, and it makes an appearance in the second one. And the company Maria and Verity worked for was Ditta, the maker of Honey Hugs, referenced in Common People. Now, Bandersnatch mentioned there, I sent you something the other day, and again, not quite on the Mandela effect thing, but did you see that Netflix have now, I think they've removed that episode from Netflix?
No, I saw your news article that said they were going to remove it. I didn't know they'd done it yet.
Well, and the reason being is because that and another show, that one was interactive, so you could make choices. And apparently, Netflix are updating their software, which means that wouldn't work anymore. So, again, imagine you sit down, you say, "I want to watch Bandersnatch." It's not there. You're going to start. Did it even exist? I was thinking, why couldn't they release it as just a standalone film? But yeah, if those of you listening have done it, you'll know why. But yeah, I just think it's funny with this technology now that we are having to remove episodes because the updates to the technology can't run it. Yeah, I mean, this was a fairly quick episode, but like I said, it's I think the subject was not as in depth as some of the others, but I guess it was a fun episode on a fun subject. What would you rate it?
Just before we rate it, one thing I was going to say as well, I thought both the actresses are really, really good. I thought they played those parts well. She got more and more frantic and paranoid, and the other one got a little bit more psychotic as the story went on.
Actually, yeah, really good point. That Verity starts off as quite a shy, like she's a new person in the company, shy.
Yeah.
Like I'm innocent, I'm just trying to get a job. And then, like you said, when she reveals herself with the milk bit at the end, she just totally changes, doesn't she?
Just switched, yeah. I'm going to give this one a 6 because I just can't hide from how disappointed I was at the end.
I'm annoyed because I'm going to give it a 6 as well.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'm annoyed because you've got the same score as me. Usually you score a little bit higher than me, so I was hoping to go, no, I'm going to be tougher than you. Yeah. Again, I like the subject. I thought it was good. The ending, yeah, just let it down. It ruined not ruined, but it let down what was a really big build up. And yeah, like I said, just the fact that you go into a house and she had these massive quantum computers and this pendant.
Thing is, what was it, a 47-minute episode? 47 minutes or something like that?
51.
So some Black Mirror episodes go on for like an hour and a half. So it felt like they had a bit more time to play with. So I think they didn't have to rush it. Obviously, people can tell I'm really frustrated with the way it ended, but it just felt like there's opportunity and they squandered it.
Yeah, like you said, because I just had a look ahead. So the next episode is 78 minutes. So they've got the ability to, as you say, have a bit of time. But it's there are probably some people out there who think we're miserable and they love the ending. So
yeah, maybe
they're probably right.
maybe they saw a completely different ending.
Maybe if you did, let us know, and I might put out a second episode of this. I might update this a week after I put this out just to correct some things. Anything else about this one you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we've covered it all.
I guess the one thing I probably should ask: did this feel like a Black Mirror episode to you?
Did it feel like a Black episode? It's funny you say that, because at some points while watching it, I did feel like this was more standalone and siloed from the rest of them. And I can't tell you why I felt that. So it's funny that you've asked me that, because I did feel that.
I'm the same. It could almost be up until the last 5 minutes, but it feels like it could almost be just some sort of psychological drama. I think the reason why I ask that is because a lot of the Black Mirror episodes tend to have either that massive impact of technology right throughout it, or it's quite sinister at the start, isn't it? There's that overtone.
I do wonder, and maybe it's not linked to that at all, but that you mentioned it about the dramatic announcement of what day it was. I don't know if that had like some sort of impact on my viewing of it in some sort of weird way that made it seem different to Black Mirror. I don't know.
Maybe. And the only reason I say that is because it's very unusual, because you didn't really need to know that it was Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Completely unimportant, wasn't it? Apart from the fact that everything unraveled within a few days.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what they were trying to establish.
Yeah, but it comes up full screen, doesn't it? It's almost like a jump scare.
Yeah, it's jarring, isn't it? It's not like it's gentle. It was quite jarring when they announced what day it was. Maybe that's what work feels like. Maybe that's the impact they were trying to introduce. That this is what a day at work feels like. We're going to jar you into business. Okay,
well, you had a high scoring one last week. We've gone to 6. 6, I think, just means it's a solid episode, right? It's not terrible, but
yeah, solid, could be better.
Yeah, and just actually one more thing for me, what you said about the 2 leads. Yeah, because when I was looking them up, they haven't actually done that much. So it's like it's not like they've got a massive catalogue. I think I said this at the start. Yeah. So, for how well they portrayed those 2 roles, and being ultimately the 2 main roles, right? It was only the boss and the boyfriend, I think, that had the next biggest roles, right? So
yeah, I don't think you did mention it at the start.
Okay.
No, I'm joking.
I was going sure I did. There you go. Well,
so I couldn't let that run.
You got it in. You got me. You got me. Anything else from you, Dan, before we go, other than having fun at my expense again?
No, I think I'm done now. I could do it offline as well.
Yeah. We will see you next time for another episode of Casting Reflections on Black Mirror, where it will be Season 7, Episode 3, Hotel Reverie.
1, 2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, take what we've got, 'cause you need it. Don't make us get